Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Get Fit with Oatopia, a place where we help you eat smarter and live better. How are you all doing? I'm so grateful for all of you for taking your time out and joining our today's session. So very much thankful to all of you. Great. Let's begin our today's session with an introduction of our guest. Alright, so we have an author today who received the most promising writer title in 2017 and 18 and Women Achievers Business Rankers Award for Excellence for her book called My Mind on a Couch. She is to be a psychologist currently pursuing BSc Honours in Psychology from the University of Bath, UK. Her life's philosophy is very much different to others. She focuses more on giving than receiving. What a beautiful thing. Alright, so let me tell you guys, she is the youngest of all the speakers we had until now on Get Fit with Oatopia. So I can't really wait to invite our speaker of the day, who is none other than, could you guys guess? Who is none other than Rajavee Arora. Hi Rajavee, how are you?
Hi Ankur, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Great. So how are you? How are things there in Jaipur? You are currently in Jaipur?
Things are good. It was raining most of the day.
Jaipur, raining. Wow, sounds good.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, so I was personally so excited for today's session. I wanted to collect a lot of wisdom from you, especially.
That's really kind of you.
Really, thank you. So let's begin our today's session. So on your bio, Rajavee, there was something written called you are an empathetic or a firm listener. So
Yes.
I was just wondering, what's the psychology behind listening, if you could tell our viewers?
So before we talk about the psychology, let me give you some background. There are generally three kinds of listeners all among us. So there are majority of the people are passive listeners. That means they get distracted or they interrupt the person speaking, or they're just preoccupied by other things, So
Right.
then the second kind, which is a bit less, are the selective listeners. So the selective listeners pay attention to you, but they pay attention to specific parts of the conversation only. And
Okay.
lastly, there are empathic listeners, which are very few, and
Like
they
you.
hear you. Yes, definitely like me, and they hear you and they understand what the person is saying, and they paraphrase it. So those are
Oh,
the three kind of listeners.
wow.
If
So if,
we,
if yeah, please.
yes. And other than that, empathy simply means putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and it helps getting another person's perspective through your head and heart. So that is very
Ah,
important, definitely.
that's
And
very true, very true.
yes, and then the empathy is a part of a bigger spectrum called emotional quotient, which
Okay.
is better at assessing a person's success than the intelligence quotient. So
Wow.
EQ has five counterparts, or self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, social skills, and in the end, empathy.
Oh,
So these are the five competencies of the EQ, which were given by Daniel Goleman, a psychologist. And then if we listen to someone, we should listen to them mindfully, which is paying attention and being in the moment. So if you listen mindfully, for example, if I'm hearing out a friend, then I would try to comprehend what they are saying. I would try to understand their problem. I would show positive body language, like you're nodding right now. So that's a kind of a positive body language
oh,
that we
really?
can show. And yes, and I would maintain eye contact with them as well. So it helps the person express their feelings openly.
Wow.
And so listening can be a psychological breather.
Oh,
Empathic listening can be a psychological breather for all.
wow, very well said. I think, most of us listen to react. We should listen to understand. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect. Very well said. Moving ahead to my next question to you would be what is a nutritional psychiatry and are our food and mood related?
That's a really good question. So, nutritional
Thank you.
psychiatry is an emerging science
Hmm.
which basically focuses on how food we eat impacts our mood. And
Okay.
it alternates the medicines given by psychiatrists into the nutrients that we find in our everyday foods.
Hmm.
So, like instead of medicines, we can take, like it's aiming at removing the medicines or reducing the medicines and
Right.
alternating them with food, the nutrients in our daily food.
Okay.
And if you look at the biology, then in our intestine there are loads of finger-like structures like villi, called villi, which absorb
Hmm.
the food, and attached to them are nerve endings and neurons, which connect the intestine to our brain. So
Oh.
that is how food and mood can be related.
And
And
guys, let me tell you, Rajvi means she is brilliant in studying the brains of humans as well as animals. So she could really means connect two things together.
yes,
Yeah, please go
definitely.
ahead. Yes.
Yes, so like we know the Vedas, so specifically the Athar Ved, and which is a part, like Ayurveda is a part of the Athar Ved. The
Hmm.
Ayurveda classifies food into three types, specifically Tamasic, Rajasic, and Sattvic food. So,
Yeah, I've
so
heard of
these
it.
are related to the different personalities that a person may possess and how it changes our mood. So the
Oh, okay.
tamasic food usually leads to a state of inertia, which is laziness or lack of energy. And a few
Hmm.
examples that people consume in tamasic food are meat, fish, eggs, alcohol, or over-processed foods,
Okay.
which I would say should be avoided.
Okay.
And
So you mean all the over-processed food like chickens, eggs should be avoided, means non-vegetarian food should be avoided?
yes,
Yeah,
mostly.
great.
Like we can't really
Great.
avoid a certain kind of food, but we can balance it.
Right,
That is what
obviously.
I think. Yes, balance should always be there. Then
Hmm.
second come the Rajasic food, which is basically high in spices or like there's coffee. So that is a kind of Rajasic food, and
Hmm.
it overstimulates the mind and creates stress and restlessness. So again, that's
Ah,
not good for our body
right.
in a way, and
Absolutely.
it affects our mood drastically
Ah.
because it makes us restless.
Right.
And then the third kind, so the Rajasic food should also be reduced in consumption. And the
Hmm.
third kind is sattvic food, which is the purest of all foods, and it nourishes a person. So some examples of that can be fruits, nuts, seeds, and freshly made food, basically. So that is all
Okay.
sattvic food. So
And
now the food and mood are actually related. So sattvic food is way better than tamasic food, that is what I would say. But still,
uh-huh.
there should be a balance among all the kinds of foods. Now, that does not mean we create an equal balance among all of them. But if majority of the food that we eat is sattvic, then that can do good to our mood. And a
Correct.
bit of rajasic and a bit of tamasic is also okay. For example, this morning I ate poha, which was vegetable poha. So it had sattvic food. It is
I
kind of
love poha.
same here. And then for lunch I had papaya, which is a fruit.
Hmm.
So again, that is sattvic in nature.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
in the evening I had rajma chawal, which was spicy. So that was a kind of rajasic food. And at
Okay.
night, if I feel some pangs of hunger while watching my favorite series, I would end up eating a bag of crisps, which is tamasic food.
Oh, well, you could replace that with Oatopia bars for sure. It's
Definitely.
totally healthy.
Yes,
All
definitely.
right. So it's very well answered. The three types
Yes,
of food that you talked about. I think sattvic food is what all should include in their diet. At least we
definitely.
could try, right? Because in this fast, dynamic world, it's very difficult to maintain a diet for a longer duration of time.
Definitely.
So how do you cope up with the diet?
So I try to balance it off. Like
Uh-huh.
if I have something high in carbohydrates, so I end up having something less, like
Mm-hmm.
something high in proteins. So I try to manage that ways.
Wow. 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 Great. Great. Incredible. All right. So moving ahead to my next question, which is on stress. It says that can stress lead to any kind of eating disorders? And how can one identify and solve this pattern of overeating or say stress eating?
That is another very good question because stress is something which is really high these days because we are stressed about many things.
True.
So
And I
stress,
think then the role of psychologist comes in.
definitely, definitely. So I would like to start with stress, which is the imbalance that is created when a person has too many external or internal demands and they are unable to meet those demands. So that makes the person stressed and it leads to ill health, whether physically or mentally, both ways.
Right.
And the stress many of us face in these days, especially because we're all sitting at home and we're not doing much. So it basically is due to our body image or comparisons between different people, and also it can be due to competition. So competition and comparisons, they're nearly the same
True.
thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And to cope up with these demands, we can work upon, like, people tend to move towards the bad side, which is eating disorders, which create a temporary relief for a person but may not give long lasting happiness to the person.
Okay. Got
So,
it.
according to the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is basically the Bible for us psychologists, according to
Ah,
that, there are three kinds of eating disorders. The
okay.
first is anorexia nervosa, the second is bulimia nervosa, and the third is binge eating disorder. So,
Okay.
anorexia nervosa basically deals with reduced calorie intakes and fasting for long period of time and
Mm-hmm.
extreme dieting. And the very bad effects of it can be on adolescent women because 90% of those who are affected by anorexia are adolescent women.
Correct.
And 5 to 8% of those affected by it die. So that's really bad. I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah, that's insane.
can lead to
Yeah,
death.
correct.
So the second one is bulimia nervosa, which includes two things. Firstly,
Mm-hmm.
binge eating, and then induced vomiting, self-induced vomiting. So it can basically, like, a person may eat loads of food and then they may try to vomit it out because they feel guilty. So that is bulimia
Mm-hmm.
nervosa, which is also characterized by excessive exercising and fasting. So overall, the
Oh,
weight
okay.
suffers.
Right, right. Got you.
Yes, and the third is binge eating disorder, which is basically eating sizable amounts of foods without even the need for them. And it basically is making a person guilty because of their body shape. But at the same time, they eat until they are uncomfortably full. So it's really bad. And people
Okay.
majorly do it due to their boredom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
So
yeah,
those are the
yeah.
eating disorders. Yes.
I see
So,
most of the youth practicing the binge eating kind of thing because they just
yes.
Netflix and chill and then they keep on having something side by side and then things could go anywhere wrong.
Yes.
Right.
So it
Right.
actually, like, mostly it leads to bad health, mentally and emotionally, both.
Wow.
So,
Very,
so as you asked,
very
the
nice.
solution
Yeah.
for that.
Yes, yes. I was just asking that, please.
Yes. So, in my opinion, I would say the family and the friends of a person can really help them get over these.
Okay.
So, once a seed is planted in a person, like the thoughts, so
Mm-hmm.
that will lead to a positive attitude. Like if a positive thought is planted in a person, then that may lead to a positive attitude
Right.
and towards good eating practices, and that may lead to conscious decisions made by them which are right for them. So
Correct.
it finally leads to better mental health. And for example, if a person is in a hurry and they have to reach their college or their workplace, they may want to pick up a bag of crisps as a snack or something. But like if they have a positive thinking, then they would opt for an Oatopia bar instead of that
Wow.
for a snack.
Agree with you
So,
100%.
yeah. So that was one thing, and the second is on the family front when the mother or the family members are planning the meal, then they can opt for nutritious food which would make a person full and may not let them eat more than usual.
Okay.
So, and
Yeah.
one more thing is that the reduction of body shaming and not criticizing a person is very important.
True, true.
So
Yeah, I
that
think
was
and most of the people do not take it seriously, but it's few things which impacts a lot to our brain in longer
definitely,
duration of time, right?
definitely.
Totally agree with you. Since you have given an example of a seed, if you try to plant a seed, I'll just add something there if you
Yeah.
agree.
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
there's two plants. One is seed and weed. Let's suppose we have a mango plant and we have a weed on the other hand. So if we grow mango tree, we'll get good fruits. But if we grow the weeds, we are totally giving away the negative thoughts, negative emotions. That's what I was mentioning. Sorry for that.
No,
Let's
it's
move
perfect. No,
on.
you're very, very correct. Like that was really a good example for that. That can be synonymous to the positive thoughts. Like the mango tree can be synonymous to the positive and good thoughts, whereas the weed can be synonymous to the negative thoughts that a person may be
Correct.
having. So you were right.
Thank you so much. A psychologist, to be a budding psychologist, said me this. It means a lot to me. Great. Raji, since you have talked about emotional eating, I was just wondering if emotional eating could lead us to anxiety or depression. So, what should be done to prevent emotional eating?
So good that you asked this question just after the binge eating one because they're kind of synonymous. But emotional eating is more for the comfort, like it's more of like indulging in comfort foods or for stress relief.
Okay,
So that is what emotional eating is for, wherein we don't mindfully eat and we don't savor the food that we eat. So it may lead to negative emotions gradually. So emotional eating is basically used to fill the emotional void that the
okay,
person may have rather than filling their stomach.
right.
So it just makes a person feel worse gradually, and
Okay,
it may make them feel guilty for overeating.
got it.
So that was one of the things. And then there's a whole cycle, an emotional eating cycle, which is followed by many people, like who emotionally eat. So,
Right.
firstly, when something upsets you, when something upsetting happens, that is a good example for that could be examination fear. For example, if I'm stressed about my exams or something, then I may indulge in emotional eating, and that may make me feel overwhelmed or urge me to eat more to
Correct.
relax myself, maybe as a comfort food. So eating distracts the mind, and due to which I'll end up eating more than I should have. So I may opt for something very unhealthy, which I may love, like salt and vinegar crisps or anything
Oh,
unhealthy of that sort, like cookies or something, rather than eating almonds or walnuts, which are good for my health. And then they make us feel guilty and powerless over food. So this is a vicious cycle that people may experience because they have a loss of control over their eating.
true.
So at the end of the day, emotional eating is bad. But
Right.
now coming to the question you asked about depression and anxiety, I would say emotional eating starts with depression, because when we emotional, yes, so basically emotional eating, like there was a study conducted in 2019 which basically explains the correlation between emotional eating and depression, and that is when we emotionally eat, we become guilty for our actions, and that leads to our sadness, which in turn leads to prolonged sadness, which is also synonymous to depression. So when
Right.
sadness is prolonged, it leads to depression. That is the basic correlation between depression and emotional eating.
Emotionally.
And if we talk about anxiety, anxiety can more of be a trigger for emotional eating rather than a solution for emotional eating or a result of emotional eating. So in a way, when a person is stressed, that is anxious, because anxiety or stress can synonymously be used,
Correct.
and
Correct.
they usually want to calm themselves, and the first thing they may turn towards is food. So it does more harm than good.
Absolutely.
And, and it can harm a person physically, like it can lead to obesity, as well as it can lead to psychological harm or mental harm regarding the body image.
Correct. I think very well answered. And this is the situation that you, as mentioned about examinations. I feel there are a lot of students suffering through emotional eating at the current point of the time.
That is
And I
so
think,
true.
I'm so very much grateful that you answered that question. I hope it helps a lot of us.
I hope so too. And you're going to
All
have
right.
your exams as well, so you shouldn't indulge in that.
True, true, true. I'm just means reacting instead of responding. No, I said it like, okay, fine, got it. So yeah, let's move on to my final question. And guys, we are open with the questions from audience side. If you have any questions for Rajvi, you could write it down below. I'll be happy to read that. So my very personal question, or the questions for viewers that I wanted to ask you, is about your book, my mind on a couch, right? So if I were to ask you about, oh, there you go. That's great. Yeah, if you could
So,
lift up a
yes.
bit. Wow, perfect, perfect. Got you. So if I were to ask you any three advices from the book, which you would like to share to the viewers of Oatopia.
Yes, definitely. My Mind on the Couch is a book of my memoirs of the first 17 years of my life, and I have related various examples from my life with psychology. So
Ah,
again, that is giving a psychological touch to everyday problems or stressors that we may face. Like I've included topics like peer pressure or personality types of stray puppies or psychological pains and gains of being the single child. So
oh wow,
these are some of the
wow.
topics that I've covered, and I think majority of the people can relate to it because it's a very generic book which relates everyday things to
Okay,
psychology. And
with a psychology perspective.
yes, definitely from a
Got you.
psychological perspective. And I have proposed my own theory or my own theorem called magnet, which is an acronym for six things. So it gives the most important learnings for improving the well-being of a person. So
Okay.
so the M in magnet is for mindfulness or meditation, which I practice every day for an hour, and it gives
Wow.
me peace of mind, and it makes me happy and satisfied with what I'm doing throughout the day.
Right. Right.
Then A is for affirmations, wherein I give positive affirmations are like positive statements that a person can give to themselves to improve their well-being again.
Okay.
So 90% of our mind is made up of the subconscious and the unconscious.
Right.
So when we consciously speak out something, it induces that subconscious mind, and basically statements like I'm a happy soul or I'm a successful person can make you reach your goal easily.
Correct. Correct.
Then the G in magnet is for gratitude. So I practice attitude of gratitude every day, and it's also called like the thing I practice is the lotus of gratitude, wherein I count 10 things on my fingers, and I should like I count 10 things on my fingers, and I thank the Lord for providing me with those 10 things daily. So
Incredible.
there are different things, obviously. Like I'm grateful for a wonderful family, or I'm grateful for studying in a good institution. So these are some of the statements that I speak every day.
Wow.
Then the N in magnet is no negativity, which is very important because we should be positive and we should be optimistic as well. So it's a choice which makes us more resilient to face problems. Like you
Okay.
just said about the seed and the weed.
Correct.
So to reduce the negativity, we need to focus on the positivity. And the E in magnet is for effort or the karma that we practice every day, which is to improve our mental health, relations, and spirituality. So it
Gotcha.
basically improves, like we can focus on the mental well-being of, we can focus on our mental well-being by educating ourselves every day, and then we can improve our health by working out, doing different kinds of workouts, whether you do cardio or you do weightlifting or any kind of workout. And
Right.
then it can improve then we can improve our relations with others and with ourselves as well, because the intrapersonal and the interpersonal relations both are important. And lastly, the spirituality part, as I just mentioned, meditation. Many people practice spirituality in different manners. Like somebody may do puja, or somebody may go to the mandir, or any place of religion or anything.
Right.
But the main aim of spirituality is to connect with our higher self.
Very
So
true.
now we come to the last part of magnet, which is the T, which is transfer. So we can either share our knowledge or money or skill with others. So that is what transfer really means to us. And I personally do volunteering. Like I have been doing volunteering for a while. For example, in Jaipur, I volunteered for different NGOs like Umang and Jagriti. Whereas in the UK, I volunteered for different causes like Water Aid and dogs and cats and half marathons. So it's a way of giving back to the society and transferring what you have to others, whether it
That's
be
really great.
your time or your effort or anything for that matter.
Wow.
So that is mostly about my book.
Yeah, truly an incredible book. One of our viewers was asking, Rajvi, we would want one more book from you. When are you writing that?
Currently, I think I'll just complete my graduation and then I'll start working on my second book.
Oh,
So that'll
all
be
right, all right.
a year.
I believe it answers the question. All right.
Definitely.
So, yeah, so very, very thankful to you for sharing your insights. And there was a lot of technology, a lot of technical terms, I would say, which was beyond my capacity, but I would try to rewatch this
I
session and
try to explain
understand.
those.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. So there is one more question. Wait, let me just read out for you. Also, when will the book be available worldwide on Amazon? Your
It
book.
is available in 7 countries specifically on Amazon, and including India. So it was published internationally, but
Ah,
so it's already available.
all right. So I hope it answers the questions. All right. Thank you so much, Rajvi, for coming to our live session and sharing your,
Thank you so much.
yeah, really very much grateful. Thank you. All right. So just a tip of advice that you would like to give to the viewers, except magnet.
A tip of advice that I would like to give is if I talk about the nutrition, then we should follow different nutritional advices which can help us improve our mental health. So,
Got it.
and other than that, I would like to say that to improve our well being, we should focus on ourselves and as well as work on different things that we are interested in and try to achieve our goal initially. Like in the end,
Perfect.
that's the most important thing.
True, true, true. Can't agree more with you. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me over.
You deserve it all.
Glad to be here.
What an incredible session. Thank you for you guys, my dearest, loveliest, and mesmerizing audience for joining and watching our today's session. Really very much grateful. What an incredible words. She explained the word magnet, which a very significant manner, which I think we should all adopt from now onwards. And on that note, I would like to end our today's session. Like I said in the beginnings, winners don't do different things. They do things differently. Thank you so much. Have a good sleep. Bye. Take care.